Yes, we are live.
Okay, we'll just start then. Good evening, everyone. This is Meenakshi here, and I, on behalf of the Enajuri team, would like to welcome all of you for today's session. We have a very interesting guest with us today, a very young person, Mr. Dinesh Lahoti. But before we begin the session, I would just like to tell a little bit about this whole initiative that is being run under the name of Enajuri Trust. So Enajuri is a not-for-profit organization. It's a trust, basically. And during the pandemic, we have been hosting this webinar series. And so far, the experience has been really enriching. We've been getting very interesting speakers on board. Every day, we host sessions on a wide range of issues. You know, we have allotted specific days for different topics, and we've been getting very interesting people to talk about their initiatives, their work, their engagement on ground. So this has been a very voluntary kind of an initiative where we are trying to engage with people. We're trying to promote the Northeast. We're trying to talk about initiatives that are happening here in Northeast India, and also try to build linkages with connections and linkages across, not specifically within Northeast India, but also looking at connections and possible networking options across borders. So that has been the purpose of these webinar series. And for the education sector, for the education webinars, we have discussed a wide range of issues. We have been discussing initiatives which are happening on ground. We've discussed holistic school development programs. We've been discussing about the national education policy and so on and so forth. So I have with me Pooja Kotoki, who is also the moderator for today's session. And I feel very honored to be welcoming our guest for this evening, Mr. Dinesh Lahoti. And Mr. Lahoti is an alumna of IIT Guwahati, and he is also the founder of Edugenie, which is a social enterprise concept. And basically, the idea is that they have been trying to work on, hands-on learning, creative teaching, multimedia tools, brainstorming sessions, and all of this. And so today, this session, we will be talking about what is the objective of, coming up with a concept like Edugenie, and what are the values that you are trying to promote, and this whole concept as a whole. So I'll hand you over the session. Thank you so much. Over to you.
Yeah, Priyanshu, can you show us the video like we have for Edugenie once? So that we can start our conversation from there.
Priyanshu?
Can you see that?
Yeah, I think now your screen is being shared. Okay, that was a lovely video to begin the session. So before I just hand over the session to Mr. Dinesh Lahoti, I'll just mention a few ground rules before we begin. So the structure is such that, I mean, it's a very flexible. We do not have a strict structure as such, but we try to stick to a format of the speaker being, the speaker speaking for at least 20-30 minutes, and then we open the house for, questions and whatever, or further moderation. Yes. So we'll try to keep our audios and videos off. And if we have any questions, we'll turn our video and audio on later on after the speaker is done with the presentation. Thank you. Over to you, Mr. Dinesh Lahoti.
Yeah. Thank you, Millen and the whole Anajori team for inviting me. Uh, I've seen the Facebook page and I've seen I think I missed a lot of interesting webinars I was unaware of, but it's really a lovely initiative where you're bringing different stakeholders and highlighting the work of different organizations and individuals, mainly focusing on Northeast. So many congratulations and a round of applause for that. Millen and the whole Anajori team. Really very happy to see that. Pooja, I'm I should share my journey at this stage. Like I should share what all I have been doing. Is that what
Yeah.
Okay.
Where from the whole your education and how Northeast became your base, and from here how your edugeny concept has started, and your catalyst of a movement which is happening in at least in Guwahati right now, and hopefully it will spread to Northeast. So let us know the journey from where you have begun and how the concept have been born.
Okay, great. Okay. So basically, my hometown is Dhekiyajuli, which is a very small town in Sonitpur district near Tejpur. So I did my schooling until class 10 there only in one of the school there. When I was pursuing my school, like I was always interested to pursue science as a career, right? But as you know, most of us really don't know what are the options available in science. So I was fortunate to have a connect who could who actually recommended me that you should go to Kota and try to become a doctor. My grandparents want me to become a doctor because I think they also knew only this as one career option, whether science is concerned, right? So I went to Kota after my class 10. When I went to Kota, the first person I interacted with, he saw my marks and we had something advanced maths in the Assam board. So he was very surprised and he was like, you have an advanced maths and your scores are pretty good in maths. Why are you not doing engineering instead of medical? I just called up my grandparents and I told Dadaji, now I won't be able to become a doctor. I think engineering sounds more interesting. I would go for engineering. That's it. Like, that's how I decided to become, go for the exam, even after reaching Kota. Like, usually I think I am one of the very few cases where people in Kota, when anyone goes, like, they're very clear, like they want to crack engineering or medical. But I decided I would become a doctor and I will go there for the entrance exam for medical. But then I decided to end up in engineering. So I prepared for the exam. To be very frank, I had no clue what I was preparing for. But somehow, like after a year, like I realized that I am among the I would say in Kota, like what was the good part was at least around that time was that you will find all the toppers from all different states, there, and they are competing together for a competitive exams like IIT or medical. So I just prepared for the exam, and I was fortunate to get a rank, a rank which would give me IITs of my choice. So I had option of choosing all the IITs, and on the basis of my rank, I preferred IIT Guwahati over other IITs. Got enrolled into chemical engineering. So when I entered IIT again, like I got a chance to meet and interact with a lot of people from again different part of the country, right? But I was very surprised to see very few people from Assam in particular and Northeast in general were studying a BTech program in IIT Guwahati. So I was very much shocked. At the same time, I was trying to understand what is wrong. Like, I mean, whenever I interacted with someone, and I know, like, I was a very average student even in my class 10. I knew I knew there were students more brighter than me in my school, but they couldn't make it to IIT or a relative field in that. whatever area they've selected, but what is the problem? Why it happened? And then, like, after starting and after doing some, following things, I realized that like the talent always there. Like, I mean, in any region for that matter, in any geography for that matter, in the country. But there is a lot of disparity in education, right? So I think I was lucky that I got into I got a chance to study in the quota. I don't say quota is really wonderful, but what I'm trying to say is that I got a chance to get an access to some resources and some teachers who are helping you to prepare and crack that exam. I mean, that was the only thing that happened with me, which actually gave me an advantage over other students who were actually more, I would say, more bright, and in all the parameters they were more better than me. So I felt like on one end, like I was like, so less number of students are staying in, are there in IITs, and on the other hand, I could see like the only the educational disparity that was there. In IIT, I got a good chance to interact with people from various background, uh, and various they have like a lot of their own different stories altogether, right? So you met someone from some person who is very whose father is a MD of a MNC, and he's studying with you. And then you also met a student who belongs to a very humble background, but because of his hard work and dedication, he's now in studying in IIT. So I was very clear that I think this is something wrong in terms of the education disparity. Something need to be done on that, right? So that was my first moment of realization. Second was when I started doing my engineering as well. I realized that most of the things that we do as an engineering, in engineering as an engineering student, are more of theoretical, right? Even in IITs, like there has been a lot of things which were more into theoretical and less into practical. But I realized, like, I got a chance to make my first uh, manual robot in the first semester. And I was like, I realized that that experience of doing things practically was completely different, right? Compared to doing and reading it in via books and, solving numericals and doing the theoretical part of it. Then I started and interacted with, I started my interaction with as many people as possible. In between, I got a chance to study in, get a full scholarship for an internship in Australia. When I went to Australia, there was my third moment of realization. There, I got a chance to work. So first, I was funded, so I was very happy of that I got a chance to study in Australia for a 3 months duration. Everything was funded. But on the second hand, like the professor who received me and who was my mentor there, she was in a true sense a mentor, right? I mean, I could see there is a lot of disconnect of teacher and student, generally speaking, in any colleges or any school in the country right now, versus I could see that the connect that I had with my professor was amazing. Remember, like, she was helping me with every aspect of my life, like, like, for example, if I have any doubt in terms of how should I present my data, or how should I research, how should I optimize my time, everywhere she was there and helping me. And for the first time I realized, like, what a mentor can do to you, right? And a beauty part of that, I got a chance to study in a developed world for a less duration maybe, but I was shocked to see that, okay, this is also possible, this is also there, this is also a world which exists, right? So that was my third moment of realization. And what happened then, when as a student in IIT, I started teaching student for IIT, for JEE exam. And when I was in my third year, a first year student joined my campus as my student. So the student was my student, at the same time he was in my junior as well. I was more than happy. Then I tried, like, what exactly is required to crack an exam like IIT. Is it really that difficult, or is it like more of a like a hype? So I started mentoring students from my school. And you'll be surprised to know, like, from my school in Dhekajuli, there are like more than 5 people who have cracked, are into IIT, and they are into medical, they're into colleges, many of them have become chartered accountant. But my focus was, since I have experience in engineering, I wanted to see whether it works or not. So all these moments, all those things made me realize that yes, there is a lot that can be done, and there is a lot of power when you educate someone. So I was among the first in that area who got a chance in IIT, and because of that, what happened? There was a rippling effect. Now people can imagine, okay, you can actually crack in exam like IIT, or you can study in IIT, because they have seen someone from their community who was a very normal guy and he could do it, right? So that aspiration and the belief both comes when someone becomes successful in that particular area. So I realized, okay, fine. The three mantra for me was very simple, that, there has to be more connections between the student and teacher. The role of teaching has to be changed from just delivering a content to actually establishing the relation with the student and helping student become the best version of themselves. So my mentoring becomes a very core element of whatever I did after that. Second was, I was theoretical knowledge doesn't help you, but more of practical knowledge will help you. So how to make learning more practical, more hands-on, more experiential. That become my second vision on that. And the third was that to how to universalize good quality education, right? Definitely afford a tutor, but then how can you reach to the remotest area and I can help the student who don't have financial resources but have that zeal and capability to actually achieve it. So with this three thing in mind, how can I universalize good quality education, right? That became our vision for Edugeny. So what I did, after my college, I was in Reliance. It took me 3 months to realize that this is not a right job for me. I resigned. I came back to Guwahati. I started my firm here. I started meeting my students. What I did was, since I was a teacher as well, so I felt like I went to my student. I asked, like, how do you imagine you want to fix the education system? And that has always been my fundamental idea, that whatever you want to change, I mean, we do. Who are we to decide everything for student? I mean, they are there. I mean, they would give you the best possible idea of what they want from education. So I approached my students, and they were very I would say they were very cooperative, and they really eagerly they started working with me and helped me start the Edugeny. So in Edugeny, you would see the structure is like that. Most of the people who are working from that time till now, I have seen a lot of my students have contributed a lot in the work that we were doing. So we started Edugeny. The idea of Edugeny was very simple. We believe that there is a genie who can make everyone's dreams come true, who can help make all their wish, and is the magic or is the power behind, and that genie is education. So education is the genie which can make all your dream come true. So with that idea, we started and we named it Edugeny, because we wanted ourselves also to keep on. We wanted to remind ourselves continuously that yes, education is the genie which can make all our dreams come true. So Edugeny, that's how Edugeny we started. So now, okay, fine, we want to work in education, we want to improve it, we want to do, but then how do we start, right? So I studied, I interacted, and I traveled across the country. I met with a lot of people who are doing amazing work. I tried to understand why there was some initiative which were there but could not sustain. Why were there so many? Why are even after so many years after independence, why are we not actually doing it? Like, am I the only person thinking? But I was very much pleasantly surprised that I was not the only one, and there were a lot of people, hundreds and thousands of people who are working day in, day out to improve the education system of the country, right, in their own capacity. So I figured out, okay, which subject should we start focusing on? And I was very much inspired by the Singapore model, because I always compare Singapore as a country and Assam, or maybe specifically, let's say Guwahati, or maybe Assam in general. I always compare these two, and I feel that Singapore is a really amazing. But one thing that they did very amazingly was that they actually invested a lot in their education. For most of the viewers, just to give an idea, like Singapore have like in all these international assessments like PISA, they continuously have stood like they've always got I would say top ranks in math and science as well as English education, right? So I was like, what such a small country, and not just because, but one very important factor was that they really invested in their education, right? So I feel like if we can really invest in our education, I think a lot of things will be changed. There has been a lot of study which says if every student improves on education, it can increase it directly affects or impacts the GDP of the nation, right? I mean, Singapore is a very good case study for that. So what subject should we study, like English or language or science or maths, which subject should we focus most? So we went again to students, we interacted with them. We did a small survey, and we realized 80 Guwahati itself only hate maths. Okay, they hate maths. I mean, they have a maths phobia. I'm sure many of our viewers would be having a maths phobia. You go to any random room and ask who hate maths, and you will always get a handful of people. Yes, we hate maths, right? We said, okay, let's work on let's face the demon and let's see what is the problem with the math education. And then we did we try to understand like, is it the problem only with Guwahati or is it in general? So we did some survey, we interacted with experts, we read some research material, and we found it's not a local problem, it's actually a global problem. Globally, more than 60% people actually hate maths. Not only hate maths, they have a phobia of maths. Now, you don't like maths is okay with me, but if a child have a phobia for maths, it's a problem because it affects their confidence, it affects their self-identity, it affects everything in their life, right? So a phobia should not be there. That was our whole that's the basic that we feel that should be there. And on the top of that, we also know on the other hand that math is becoming more and more popular, more and more important, not popular, actually more and more important. May it be science, may it be humanities, may it be commerce, or may it be any field, you will require some sort of mathematics to actually, make the best out of that, that particular field. So with that in mind, so we started with the maths. So what I did was I was very much inspired by a TED talk by Arthur Benjamin. You can search his TED talk. It's Arthur Benjamin, Human Calculator, something like that. I mean, the name of the video was, but it was by Arthur Benjamin. If you search his name, Arthur Benjamin, you will find that TED talk. So in the TED talk, he actually amazed the people with the calculation skills, right? And I was like, see, if you want to remove a phobia, we have to do something beyond what has been doing so far, right? We cannot go with the traditional model because traditional model is definitely not solving the problem. So what can we do to remove the maths phobia, right? So with that, first we felt like the problem is also with the word maths. So we come up with a new name for it so that, it's become easy for a student to give it a restart. So we named our program as Wow Maths. And I started with my own homeschool in Dhekiajulli. I said to my principal, sir, I wanted to do this math show for my school students. And he agreed to it. And we did a first math show in my school in 2013, around 13 and 14, 13, yeah, around 12 and 13. So that was my first math show. So what I do in math show, I take a student from a journey of that. So first I will do some mathematical feats and I will make them feel wow about it. Once they feel wow about it, the idea is not to show my skills. The idea was from wow, then how can we go to how and why, right? And how a student can do the same thing that I did, how can they do it in the show itself, okay? So the idea was to inculcate growth mindset towards maths among the students. So that was how we started the math show. We went to school after school. I remember after my first show, students came out with sir, can you give us an autograph? At the same time, I was very sad about it. Like, what is wrong with it? I mean, a good lecture is, or whatever I did, they want an autograph, right? So I was very much, I would say, happy in one end, great, people are asking for autograph. It's a good feeling. That means you have really connected well with the students. But on the other hand, I felt like it's really, you can understand, the level of the pain that was there, among the students, because for the first time, probably they have started feeling, oh yes, maths, I can do maths. Okay. I thought it's maybe with the one school, but you won't believe almost everywhere where I did this math show, almost everywhere, there were participants who will come to you and ask you for an autograph, right? Or will go crazy about you, crazy about the program itself. So we realized, that this is actually a real idea of, the real challenge and the real problem with the math education. If the phobia is real, and if the solution is there, the capability of the student are there, right? So it's not like a bacha maths mein weak hai, or he is a math person. These are all, I would say, not correct or not appropriate, context, right? I really feel like everyone can learn math, irrespective of the age, irrespective of the whatever the marks are, right? So I really don't value the marks, and in my team, you will see no one who is working with us or with the same vision will not agree with the fact that marks like if a student loves math, he has to have a high marks, right? And vice versa. So with these shows, we realized that yes, first we are able to connect with the student, which was very important for any program, right? If you're unable to connect with the student because they are the stakeholders, then that was always our first parameter. So we're very happy with the fact that we could connect with the student. But on the other hand, we realize just making them feel good about maths for one day will not be of any help. Okay, it could be a small spark, but it will not lead to anything. So the first year of EduGenie, we reached around 20,000 students in the first year itself with only our Wow Math show. Until now, I have done more than 200 math shows alone, and my team members also do maths and science shows. And we did in all places, including IITs, including NEHU, including Cotton College, not only in Guwahati, but it's as well as we got invited in to conduct a match show. So this match show become a good parameter, good way to introduce and a good way to make them believe that you can do maths. Okay, but then okay, I believe now I can do maths, but I want to do maths now because I have to be real on it, right? So we realize no, only maths show will not help it. We need a proper program which can actually help them in day to day the way they deal with maths. So we started working on the curriculum. You won't believe that, we literally went on all the curriculums, all the important curriculums of the world. We studied NCRT, we studied state board curriculum of Assam, we studied Meghalaya, we studied Tripura, we studied Kerala, as well as we read, curriculum of Singapore, US, even to certain extent of few specific countries. And we try to understand what is happening in the math education globally, because we were like, whatever is best in the world, we want to bring it to the student in Assam, or for that matter, any part in the any student in globally, right? But the best part should reach to them. So we started and we studied a lot about what is right, what is wrong, what are the challenges, which are the areas where student develop this phobia, which are the region, and then after all these studies, we collaborated, we learned from educators across the world. We have lovely partners. We have one amazing group called Navnimiti Learning Foundation, which is based in Pune. They are doing amazing work in universalizing quality math education. We collaborated with different authors. We collaborated with different teachers across the globe. And what we realized that, yes, it's possible to make maths make math sense for a child. So now what we do now, now what is the program is, you give me any topic. We have designed a lot of activities, games, and puzzles on all topics of the curriculum. You give me a paper. Only with the paper, I can teach almost all the concepts of geometry using origami. We use real life connection. We use materials which are easily available. At the same time, we also use some good kits manufactured by different organizations in the country as well as abroad. The idea was whatever is best in the world, we need to package it and customize and contextualize it to the student where we are working. So currently we are working with 11 different states. The whole model of Wow Maths or collaboration with NLF is now implemented in every district in Kerala. So we are doing there something called as community math labs. So these are math centers in the villages. In every district, we have one village where we are helping parents to, we are helping students with the real life maths. We are working with Maharashtra, so we are training the trainers there. We have trained class 6, 7, 8 maths teachers on how to inculcate or how to integrate activity-based maths. We have trained all the school teachers from class 9 and 10 in Meghalaya of class 9 and 10 on both maths and science. We are working in Tripura. We are working in Mizoram. We have worked in Assam. With Assam, Aztec has been a big, I would say, supporter, or a big. They have really supported us like wholeheartedly, and they are the one who have helped us to reach multiple places in Assam. So we do something called as grooming and mentoring of students. There we teach science. The listing project, what we do is that we target 8, 9, 10 students, class students of class 8, 9, and 10. We select from different schools in the region. It's been done by Aryabhatta Science Center of that local area. Then we go there and we train them on different science activities. And with the science activities, we tell them what are the career opportunities. Okay. With that, what we do, we try to teach them science at the same possible careers in science, because Aztec, as you know, is a science and technology.
Yeah.
Its task is to import science education, science in general. So we wanted to increase a more number of students who get interested towards science education, and we have done it like from Sadia to Majuli to Kokrajhar. I mean, they have taken us to places, and we have done implemented this project with them. There's when I realized that there are so many bright students, but they really don't know what to do, right? So after 10, what should I do? After 12, what should I do? And it's like a traditional culture. I will go for engineering or I will go for medical. I could reimagine the Dinesh who was there in 2004, 2005 as a high school student. And now nothing has changed in terms of the aspiration or the choices of student, right? It has not been drastically changed. And that's when I have founded my another organization called Career Spark. What we do, we give them an experiential counseling and mentoring sessions where we help them realize, and like first is exploration. We help them what are the career options available, and once you finalize a career, we help them how to achieve your dream, right? So it's not only just letting them do a career in design and become a designer. No, okay, you want to become a designer, but then how? We will help you to become a designer as well. So this program is what we're doing under the banner called Career Spark. That's my another organization, which was actually born because of the experience we got from the Aztec project. So currently we are helping students. We are working with teachers. So we are working. So because the best way to, I strongly feel this, that if we really want to make any impact in education, it has to be teachers, right? I mean, and teachers uh, are are like they really want to learn something. It's not like that they don't want to learn or they're not good. You know, there has been a lot of debates around that. But personally, on my experience, what I've realized, irrespective of age, irrespective of geography, I have seen that teachers are always interested. The problem is in the content that we deliver to them. So most of the teacher training are boring because it's like a lecture method. It doesn't help them in any way. They know it's not gonna help me. If you give something which is practical to them, which is something that will make their work easy, they respond pretty well. I have been given a chance to work with teachers, and I've worked with more than 5,000 teachers across the country. Have trained them on different subjects like math, science, lesson planning, how to make classroom more activity based, how to make classroom more engaging. So that has been a lovely experience. Third, we started now working with the parents directly. Okay, because parents again, like I mean, so we come with one product, another company come with another product, another organization come with another product. Parents are the one who get confused every time. So the best way is you educate them so that they will actually counter on whatever wrong is happening, right? So for example, there is a craze of tricks, right? So math education is full of tricks, right? Everyone loves to boost that we will teach you shortcut trick. But if you see what it does educationally or pedagogically, it actually it limits you, right? Because then you think everything in terms of tricks. But what if you can actually decode the tricks? What if you can create your own tricks, right? I mean, we want to be a generation of creators, not a generation of people who are using the same tricks which has been there in the ages, right? So I think that's what we're trying to do. In science education, we try to make it as hands-on as possible, as activity-based as possible. We have compiled more than 1,000 activities which can be done from easily available materials. From a plastic bottle, I can teach you class 11 concept. From mud or from water, I can do a lot of experiments. So the idea that science is not that is done only in lab, science is everywhere. And that feeling that you start thinking scientifically, which is a very, very big blockade in our society. And that's what we're doing with a lot of various outreach programs. So we do math shows, we do science shows, we do hands-on mobile exhibition, we do math festival, we do science festival, we do puzzle marathon. I mean, you just like the idea is very simple. We want to reach as many students and as many parent and teacher to make them feel that learning is not reading only from the books, right? It is an important component, but learning is also doing, right? And learning is something which you can continue, and it should be a fun thing for you, right? And that's what we're trying to do: promote good quality. The learning should be more fun, more meaningful, more applied, more hands-on, and more wow. That's what we're trying to do with all the initiatives that we're doing. So far it has been a lovely learning experience. Thanks to all my students who have really helped me, and there has been a lot of amazing people who have helped us. Me from Aztec, from NLF, from different government organizations, private schools. I mean, it has been a lovely journey. There has been a lot of challenges, but yeah, I think that's what was the interesting part, right? Because you always face challenges. I have seen many a times where my organization, I know as a founder, I had zero money in my bank account and I have to pay my team members. But एक बार first time जब zero okay, when once you move, once you reach your first zero, uh, then I think it's normal. So now I'm pretty much okay with reaching zero and again going from zero to something and
Starting again.
yeah. And
Yeah.
team has, I mean, I always say that our organization is also has to be learning by doing. I mean, we don't have any mantra, we're not following any specific structure because I think it doesn't exist, right? So what we're trying to do is try to create some community or try to create some resources or some people or some organizations who can actually work together and improve the overall learning outcomes. I have seen a lot of students have started picking up what we did. So many of students who have attended a program now they have started with their own organization. I have seen many teachers have started doing a lot of things which we always have shared. But I remember, like, I mean, initially when we used to share something, it was very tough, like and I really feel like and you wanted to know why I wanted to start from Guwahati and not from any other city, because I really feel like like I have whatever I have learned in my education journey, everything whatever I have learned, whatever I have got is all from this place. So whatever if I deliver, it should be from this place. So I remember, like, when I first went to a very high school in Mumbai, the teachers were like, okay, this guy is from Guwahati, like, why are you calling people from Guwahati for a workshop? And I could hear it, like, before the workshop, and I was like, okay, great, let's see how it goes. But then after the show, like after the workshop, the parents and the teacher, especially the teachers, it was teachers training, they came and say, like, we're very sorry, we really misunderstood, first, because of my age, I'm very young. Many times, I have to teach someone who is double of my age. uh, uh, I'm doing a training, so I have to be very humble, and I really feel like I've been very fortunate. I would say that I have never ever faced any ego issue or any feeling where a teacher is thinking that this guy is very young, I will not learn from him. That's what actually made me believe that teachers are really amazing. They just, if your content is good, which is helpful for them, I mean, they are there to learn, right? So this is what has been my journey. So I'm currently running these two organizations, Edugenie and Careerspa, and I'm doing all these things. So yeah.
Wow, Dinesh, like amazing to hear the journey and you have literally revamped how we teach maths and science in schools. Like, this is amazing to know that someone in Guwahati has started it. And this is very eye-opening. Like, we were not really expecting कि इतना अच्छा काम हो रहा है गुवाहाटी में. And like, you said something very interesting. Like, we have a fear for maths or science. So I'm talking from my experience. If I go back like some few early 2000, so हमारे classroom teaching में जो था, there a sense of fear have been built up for maths or science. So हम लोग हमेशा उस चीज को लेके बहुत डरते थे. So if we talk about like your your time of school education and now, do you see that in classroom teaching the fear of both the subject maths and science have been reduced, and it's being taken as a subject which students have started enjoying? I'm not just saying about privatized schools or like selected government schools. As a whole, how do you see that transition has been going on in terms of how you look upon both the subject, both in terms of students and parents? Like हमारे यहाँ में ट्यूशन का जो concept है बहुत ज्यादा उसको importance दिया जाता है. So I just want to know the transition which has been happening. Like do you see children or parents having that friendliness or friendly approach towards the subjects?
Yeah. So I mean, I had a similar question, Pooja. Like, I wanted to understand ki kya ho raha hai? Like, is it changing? Is it degrading or is it increasing? What has happened for sure, the quality of books that are available. Like, I feel the books is an amazing technology, right? I mean, that's an amazing technology. And there is a craze of online learning. There is a craze of, we are promoting ICT and all those things. But I really feel the biggest investment should be in books, because books have a potential to reach every area, irrespective of, and it's very affordable, right? Uh, what has happened, Pooja, what we observed was that the quality of books have degraded since the time when we were student and now, and it is continuously degrading. It has become more of a commercial entity rather than a educational entity. Okay, so the quality of books have degraded a lot. It's all, as I was saying, like it's all about, the problem is not math, neither the problem is science. The problem is math education and science education, how it is being taught. Okay, if you see, for just a small example, like we do division, and in division we follow an algorithm, right? We write a number and we write a number and we bring it down. Why are we bringing it down, right? I mean, what is the reason why we're bringing it down, right? We could understood the algorithm. That's why we are good in maths. But do we really know why does that algorithm works?
Exactly.
So most of us don't, right? So when we started understanding the problem in math education, we realized the same teaching is there, because the teacher who is teaching now has been a part of this education system only. We can't expect them to innovate uh, uh, on their own alone, right? But given a chance, if you tell them, okay, this was the reason, this is the thing, they really are more excited than ever, right? So I see that the quality of education, in terms of maths phobia, I think now people are having more fear than ever. That's what is my feeling is. With multiple programs coming up of tricks, I feel the problem has gone more worse actually. Second, I feel in terms of awareness, parents are now more
Why
aware.
do you feel so, like if there is a diversity of teaching mechanism,
Right.
things should be more approachable, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Correct, correct.
So
So
why do you see it's becoming a problem?
yeah, it's becoming a problem because see what is happening now. If you see a student journey, like may it be private or government school or any geography, you will see that uh, the study skills, right? The way how you learn anything, the science of learning and how we learn anything, this is being degrading continuously. Now people don't, students hardly read books. Okay, hardly read books. I'm saying again in a general. I mean, I have seen a lot of students who read a lot of books beyond textbook, but students have not got, are not building that rigor of reading books. So you know what? Like you will be surprised to know that the problem with maths is not only with the maths. If your language skills are weak, you will again be weak in maths, because you will not be able to comprehend what does it mean. Correct, and same is applicable for other subjects. So if you're learning a language, so for example, it may be Assamese, maybe Hindi, or maybe English, whatever medium you are studying in, if your language skills or comprehension skills are not good, not that you know a language, but your reading ability, right, your ability to comprehend a concept, if that is weak, things will be not good, right? So what I'm seeing now, that you will see a lot of people because see the population have also increased a lot. I mean, demographically we are increasing. The population is at the younger ones is increasing compared to the last year. It's always been more till I think 8 to 10 years. But what is happening is that the quality of education is not improving, and the quality teachers are degrading. You know why? Because very few people are coming in teaching profession as a choice. I remember I had a school teacher in Daycare Julie, okay, Nag sir. I mean, I owe him a lot. He's no more, but I owe him a lot. I owe him a lot. You know what he did for us? He actually used to teach us beyond textbook. Okay, and he was not this generation teacher, right? He was for teaching. He was not like just for teaching. I mean, you understand, right? Commercial teaching and teaching for the sake of teaching, right? So what is happening is the quality teachers are also getting less in number. That again is a amounting factor, because I really feel like and so what happened, every school, every place have lot number of student, right? So students की quantity बढ़ गए हैं बहुत ज़्यादा, number of teachers, quality teachers कम होते जा रहे हैं, and the training that is required for upgrading the teachers is not there. Now that is again so there is a lot of disconnect with the school from a student side. There's a lot of disconnect from a teacher side, and these are like major contributing factors. Parents have become more aware in terms of, okay, I have to give a tuition. I mean, that's the only awareness majorly, right? They will ask a question to a tuition teacher, they will not ask a question to a school, because they fear if they ask a question to a school, something will happen bad, right? but I think this is all not right actually, because if there is some problem, the school have to have a dialogue, the parents have to have a dialogue. You will see that like parents, students have a lot of options, so now they select a teacher, uh, and in our case, if you used to get less mark, if we say teacher is bad, we will be first again, we will have some treatment from the parent, and then we will we again be asked to learn from the same teacher. So वो भी एक जो perspective है ना teacher का, वो भी बहुत change हो गया. Like even if there are good teachers, the way it's being perceived now, it's not like guru wala culture. It's like really at risk right now, and it's more in urban area than rural area. In rural area, whenever I have visited, and you go to 50 kilometers away from Guwahati, and you will see the magic there of that guru shishya bond, but it's not very much in the urban area.
Dinesh, actually, it's very interesting how you're talking about the, nuances in this entire thing, particularly because, when we are fed with more options, we are also lost for choice. We are spoiled for choice, rather, and things get way more complicated. That is really true. It's really important to look between the lines, actually, when you're saying this, because now we have a wide range of options. Parents are fed with so many. Too much of information also becomes a little overwhelming at times, but I want to touch upon something slightly different from what you're saying. When you talk about maths and science, there is also a very interesting gender angle that plays out, because often we see that be it engineering or medical profession, it's generally boys who are encouraged. Maybe you will not see this in a very urban space, the current context that we all belong to, the current urban spaces that we are all part of. But if we delve more into, more deeper, I'm trying to say, that's what I mean basically. So these kind of, these intersections actually play out a lot in terms of gender. So how are you really observing these kind of, a shift in paradigm, if I can say so?
Absolutely.
Are you really? Yeah,
absolutely.
could you
Like
just
very,
elaborate?
I mean, very correct. I totally agree. Maths लड़कियों से नहीं होगा. I mean, this has been uh, a statement throughout.
A
And
common perception, yeah.
yeah, and you will see also in the examples used in the textbook, it's still that level, right? Even the maths teacher, the author, right, they also feel that it's not there, right? So how, what I feel is that, like, it's not only in the rural urban area or rural area anymore. Like it's like same what I observed, Meenakshi, like there is this barrier when it comes to girls studying science, maths, right? There is a barrier. So what we do, and what we try to do always wherever we get a chance, if we find any maths and science a person and a female, we would like to we'll make it a point, let them interact with the students wherever possible. In fact, my science teacher, my maths teacher are female, and I do it intentionally, because if a female teacher is teaching you maths with that confidence, with that beauty, with that all the resources that we have given, it really changes that shift. I mean, so we did this interesting thing, like, and we asked the student also, do you feel like girls don't know how to do math? Our ma'am do. I mean, how can you say it's girls don't do no maths, right? So it's a perspective shift that we really need to bring. And you will see that most of the schools have a maths teacher, as a male maths teacher, most of the schools, right? Why? And in my school, even in Deka, actually, my maths teacher was a female teacher, and that has a lot of impact on my perspective. That I never believed the fact that girls can't do math, and probably because of that reason, because I could see that my ma'am is teaching me maths and she is a female, like, so I had no, like, koi angle hi nahi tha mere ko wo aane ka. But you're very true, like there are a lot of less women, less girls coming into STEM careers or STEM field, and I think we really need to do a lot of work in terms of promoting that, and giving them the adequate the required support. But to my experience, I really feel that girls can do way more better work, way more better in general, I'm saying, when it comes to science and maths. I really feel that, and I have seen among my various students as well. So yes, we really need to do a lot of work on that.
So I also wanted to understand, so your work is also just within Guwahati, within urban spaces of Guwahati, or also outside Guwahati, and you're focusing on grassroots communities?
Our focus work is not in Guwahati actually. We
Okay.
have a learning center here, which is run by a team of teachers. But we mainly focus on working with, I mean, our preferred choice is to work mainly with the government schools. Okay.
All right.
And there we wanted, so for example, in Tripura, we were working with 100 schools together. Okay. So we've been
Wow.
given 100 schools where we have to try to improve the math education. Uh, the
So
100
which are the states you're currently functional in?
so actually it depends from project to project, but currently though we are only working right now in Assam. Like COVID is a different case, but without
Right.
COVID, we were in Meghalaya, Tripura, Kerala,
Okay.
Maharashtra, Assam, uh, Mizoram. We do a project in Mizoram in collaboration with NLF, and yeah, these are the major states where we're working. We're also working in Nagaland. This happened in COVID, during COVID. We got a
During
school
COVID.
where we're working, we're doing some online sessions with them in a school
Okay.
in Nagaland. So,
Dinesh, like now you have said that during COVID you have started with Nagaland, so your use of technology uh, have gone manifold. So like, how do you say the kind of interactive, experimental studies that you do? How challenging it is through the medium of virtual media you are able to do it? Like, how is the interaction or assimilation of knowledge that has been gone? Like, how do you see the experience now? The practical like, based experience studies that you all are trying to implement, how is it different through virtual media?
yeah. So on the virtual media, I feel that, like, the way the virtual media is used right now, in generally in most of the cases, it's more of, I say it like, it's more of a video book, right? It's like your content is available in a digital media, right? I mean, instead of your textbook, now you have some animation or some videos which are being played for you in a video format, right? So I feel that this is not actually the right way of education, right? The education is a two-way process, right? It's not like only
Exactly.
delivering and they listening to it, right? So what we did was, we made all our content, I mean, that's a very fundamental thing that we do, is inquiry based, right? So for example, I will not ask student what is, uh, let's say, 1 meter. What I will do is ask instead, do you have a scale? Can you just tell me how long is 1 meter? Like, I will not do I will not ask them a definition, but rather I would ask them to experience it or ask about it, like, uh, ask questions rather than we asking question. I encourage student to ask question, right? We encourage in general to student to ask question, because then that's a good learning. I mean, asking question is a dictatorship, right? It's a asking question. But I feel that students should ask the question, that how the education should be. So what we're doing in online is that we're trying to make all our content available in a digital form, but in a form of a inquiry mode, right? So we're not just showing videos. We are doing a lot of things where the interaction is two-way. To do that, we're making small groups. We're not making big groups, and we're trying to personalizing it. We're trying to also take care that we don't do too much of screen time. I'm very against that. I really feel that it's really not good for a child's health, and in general, it's not good for teachers' health also. So we should not have. So we have maximum, every session should not go more than 1 hour. That's a mantra that we are following, even for the urban kids, right? So I feel that if we can use technology, for example, with technology, we do something like, can we do an experiment? Can we just explore Google Earth together? Okay. Can we do a virtual tour of a museum uh, whose virtual map is written, and we do that, right? Can we watch using a mobile app? Can we be more observant of the night sky? So every day these days, like, we observe night sky together. And if you
Oh,
go and you can download this app, Sky Watcher, you will see Mars very, very visible in this night sky in Guwahati. And you will see Jupiter and Saturn and Pluto all in one line. Okay, this is pretty rare. I mean, they are in line, right? But these observations are very interesting, right? So we use all these technical tools are available, but this should, the fundamental layering is that it should lead to inquiry. Okay, it should not lead just to, I mean, for example, we're teaching student coding, right? Programming, but it's not like you just program something. Like, it should be a problem oriented, it should be contextualized, it should be inquiry led, right? So we are helping students explore artificial intelligence in class 9 or class 8.
Oh, wow.
But these are done in an inquiry mode, and in a 4 or 5 session they will create their own chatbot, right? But again, in an inquiry mode, the whole idea is that from how can they be creative? So this like there was this lot of issues with lot of things are happening in the environment right now, right? EIA and and
Uh,
endless, right?
okay.
Yeah.
When we talk about AI, it's very interesting. Like, from how do you see AI's impact on like schools? Like, see, when we talk AI, it's a very privileged wala thing also. This information that there is something called AI is very exclusive to few students. अगर आप बोलो तो धेकियाजुली के schools में public schools में वो नहीं भी हो सकता है. Even if you let's talk about like tea garden schools in धेकियाजुली वो हमें बहुत ज़्यादा है. When we talk about gender, like women are marginalized, but in society if we talk tea garden community as a whole has been marginalized for a very long time. In fact, अगर आप बोलो तो class 5 के बच्चे class 1 के बच्चे मतलब class 1 के बेसिक बुक का टाइटल भी नहीं पढ़ सकते हैं. So when you say about AI and this kind of concept, can you elaborate like how do you see it happening, or like what is its implication in our education system as of in 21st century?
Correct. So what I really feel is that ये जो AI की बातें हैं या ये जो कोडिंग की बातें हैं, ये एक अभी कमर्शियल बन गया, right? I mean, it has become highly commercial. With all those, there are a lot of companies who run the coding classes at a very high, like 1 lakh rupees is the fees for that, right? So it has again become, it is again adding a disparity, right? So what we do is that we say that this is this free website, you can learn from that also for free, or you can learn with a coach, okay, at an affordable price, so that it is possible for you to learn, right? That's what we're doing in currently in the COVID situation. Ideally, what we want to do, we want to go to those towns and those schools and teach them and equip them how to program, right? And trust me, like there are so many programs. I can just for the viewers, you can just search for Scratch. It's an app. It's a program designed by MIT. The whole curriculum is mentioned there. Everything is there. Okay. Now with the Scratch, you can actually start creating games, start creating apps, start creating get the basic idea of programming. Okay. What I really feel is that keep programming जो है चीज वो भी, the whole idea of introducing programming is to make them think, right? And make them creative. It's not the other way around. Like we want them to feel that this is really something, very fancy, right? So the idea of AI, I feel what I feel about AI personally, I feel that AI will have an impact. Definitely, it will have an impact on a lot of things, but there are few professions which cannot be replaced by AI for sure. For example, creative professions, right? You cannot replace creative professionals with AI. I mean, it may be replaced to a certain extent, but still you will need a creative head to go into and solve that problem. So what we are good at as a human, we are good at problem solving, we are good at reasoning, we are good at thinking, we are good at creativity. These are something which machines cannot replicate very easily. So these are the skills which we should empower with every student. I mean, and especially as you mentioned, to the less fortunate in terms of access. Okay, maybe students from Dhekajuli, maybe students from tea gardens, they should be more and more empowered towards that. So now currently what are we doing? We are creating a program in Assamese and other languages to learn programming. Okay, and this would be like the way we are doing the maths and science program. We'll be training teachers, will be, because our main model is that we help we do the training of the trainers. And I feel that what we really need is communities, right? Every place, if there is a community, we have a lot of resources. So we are working on the model that we tried in Kerala, and it is really working pretty well. Create a community, take small village, and that community center, you can bring in a lot of resources there, right? That way you can actually reach more people and bring all these new programs, new age skills, right? Which will be very helpful for students. So AI in general, मुझे लगता है कि it's not it is very much a required skill, but for every student, जैसे भी coding एक बहुत basic skill हो जाएगा for many students, but it's good if we empower them, right? Because उससे उनको सोचने का मिलेगा. I mean, how to think they will get, and that is more important than getting into a coding job. But how to think, how to reason, how to solve problem, how to be more creative, becoming a creator rather than a consumer. That is more important, and that is more important for the students in the tea gardens, or in the student in the government schools than the private schools in general, I'm saying. Because वहां पे वरना वो बहुत बड़ा disparity create करने वाला है वो चीज, in education or in life in general. So I really feel how if we can find some way to empower them, that would be really amazing. I hope I answered you.
Pooja?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I think we can open the floor for questions. I'm pretty sure people will have questions. You can unmute yourself and directly ask the question.
This is Milind. Okay. My question is, I heard that there's quite a lot of expensive, what do you call, all this tutorial stuff available right now. So, as cost-wise, how is your program? How affordable is your program?
Your voice is breaking. Can you please repeat again, Milind?
Your program, is it, how affordable is your program, your stuff? If people, if it's not a government school and people want to do from private school, or from Assam, if they wanted to take your course because it's not offered through their school, how affordable are they? That's what my question. And where all you have sent?
Right. So right now, all our programs are under the range of 1,000 per month. Just to give a basic idea, and this is for urban crowd. We have a center in Pathshala where we have 600 to 500 to 600 rupees per month, where teachers from our Guwahati center, they go and visit in the Pathshala. So there we have a space. What with online we can probably reduce it further, but this is when it's B2C, right? I mean, when one-on-one any parent or the student come. What I really feel like what we've really tried to do is that in such circumstances where a student come to us individually from a government school or a place where they can't afford, what we really try to do is go and approach the school and try to do a program for the whole school, and wherever possible keep it. I mean, so we have a cross subsidy model. So we also do many of the programs for free of cost. But we make them feel that you have earned it, right? I mean, because otherwise they don't take it seriously. Many of the programs where we say we will refund if you do that program complete, if you complete the program. This is just to ensure that the management is stick on it, right? Otherwise they take it for things for granted and they don't execute or implement the program, the basic thing that is required. So we do for free, we do for and like for example, when you work with government schools and all, I mean, it's as like the idea is there, like we want to make the program happen and we just wanted to keep ourselves sustainable. I mean, that's the only criteria. Say for example, and that's why we prefer working in group there, right? Instead of working one-on-one, because one-on-one means more human resource intense, and then it becomes pretty expensive on our end also. We can't sustain it, right? So we would prefer, and we are not into like ये online videos available है उसको देख के आप कर लो. We have done a lot of videos. We have a lot of videos available in Assamese. We have translated. We have partnered with Arvind Gupta, and we have converted around 60 to 70 videos in Assamese for science. They are available in YouTube. But what I really feel like that is not again like learning, right? That's just a part of learning. Ideally, what we do, we go to that particular place. We try to find and from where can we bring the basic resources. But we have the best part. What we were able to do is that our costing and our expenses have really reduced a lot. Like that's what we're able to do because we got really good people who are not working for profit or for money, right? They're working for the cause and for the outcome is more important. So if anyone, any place, like if they're interested and they're really passionate about, we are there. Like money is very secondary. We'll try to either fund it from our other ventures or we will try to bring it in a very sustainable mode. That's how the pricing goes. So for a school, it can be 5,000, 10,000 a month. I mean, not more than that.
So you basically, for EduJourney to survive, so your income is basically, you're more focusing with school, right? rather than?
Yeah, so for Edugene to
Yeah.
survive, see, like what we do is like we have a cross subsidy model. So there are parents in Guwahati who can pay, right? I mean, so that's why we have a
Sure.
center in Guwahati. So this center actually makes us very much sustainable in many aspects, right? So in our center, as I said, but there also we don't want to charge very hefty amount. So typically, if you go for any tuition, it's 1,000 rupees is very normal. But we have like all the facilities, but still we are not charging more than 1,000 rupees, right? 1,000 rupees is what we charge per month for a student, so that it becomes sustainable for the team there, right? Apart from that, we get funds from so we don't do fundraising and all, but rather what we do, we will work, you pay for us, you pay us, right? Because we wanted to make it as sustainable as possible. So many times we do summer camps, we raise fund with that. Many times we work with school in a contractual basis. This is what we're trying to do now. We realize that if a school is working with us, we want a commitment of 1 year or maybe 2 year, maybe preferably 3 years, and we will have an exit plan after 3 years. So we work there, we help everything, we train the teachers, and then we go out. You run the system on your own. If you need any support, we will be there. That what happens, that actually brings certain amount of sustainability. And for school also, we try to make it as affordable as possible. So that's what the model is. So revenue currently is from learning center, from the workshops we do for private as well as government, and organization like Aztec, they give us some project. Governments, they pay us. Uh, any organization whom we work with, they pay us for our services.
So where all do you have center? We said Guwahati, Patsala, and where else?
Guwahati. These are the two places. And we have like community learning centers in Kerala with government of Kerala, but it's in a more of a similar setup.
And how is the response from Assam government?
Aztec has been really amazing because they really understand. Assam government, no response as of now. We have worked with certain departments, but it's not like so. I don't know why, but like we are being welcomed more by governments other apart from Assam. I don't know why. Because Meghalaya invited us. Uh, I mean, they really paid us also. Like it's not like they are doing it for like just do like the typical jo government ka hota hai. They really, I mean, and one good part, wherever we work, we have a very structured thing that we have to pay. You have to pay this much amount first, and then second, because we know we won't be able to sustain ourselves otherwise. And we say it upfront, right, to the government or to the any schools or anywhere we work. This is our mode, because we once you work with us, then the money will not be the factor anymore. The quality, and we want to work for student, right? But we just wanted to have, if they pay some amount, I have seen the seriousness is priceless actually, right? I mean, that is what actually we get when any school, like if they pay certain amount, the seriousness is much more, rather than we did that also, Million, like, we went to school, we said we are doing it for free. So it's like a free lake is okay, we'll use the free, and then they don't bother to see also what are we doing. And there are many examples in Guwahati and outside Guwahati also, where we did for free, we put our of no value, like outcome was not there, versus we say you pay us a little fee, then the seriousness comes more. And now the demand is more, we are unable to we're unable to provide more teachers, because it's the training teacher is a very it takes time, and it's very difficult to get those people as well. So the demand is more right now for our programs, but we're unable to really meet the demand. So,
okay. Good to know that demand is more.
Yeah, so demand is there.
Yeah, we have a question. Ilana, can you unmute and ask? Ilana?
Hello. Yeah. So I wanted to ask that, as we all know, Finland has a great educational system, right? And they have this policy of less homework. They give less homework to the students. So what is your approach towards homework, the system of homework?
I feel that yes, there should be less homework for sure. Work should be there, right? I mean, see what is happening. What I feel, what is really amazing with the Finland model is that they also have trying to mix the subjects, right? So which is what we are also doing. By the way, what we're trying to do, for example, I teach someone in physics, I have to teach about collision. Okay, collision of two objects. I may give an example of road accidents, right? And once they study road accidents, they not only learn the physics or the science of it, they also learn the precaution part. They also learn the statistics, how many accidents have happened, how many people have made the accident, are the female driver have made the more accident, or the male drivers have made more accident? Surprisingly, a male driver always have committed more accidents compared to female drivers. So female drivers are more safe on road, which is again a feeling like, maybe female hai to drive nahi kar payenge, generally speaking, right? So we try to connect all the subjects together, and that's what we learn from the Finland model. Like, is that like problem doesn't come to us subject wise in our life, right? It's more of a holistic, integrated problem, where we need to know the maths, the science of it, the mathematics of it, the economics of it, the impact of it, all factors together, right? So once you do that, what happens? Your contextualization happens a lot, right? And you really understand the subject more. So if that happens, then if you see practically, you will not need tuition. The whole idea of tuition was to help you with the subject or the portion which you have not understood. I mean, that was the idea of additional help, right? If I'm unable to follow, I need additional help. That's the idea of tuition. I mean, was always there, right? But now it has become like more of a culture. So the same thing is applicable to homework. Homework is less homework and more work. If you're able to understand, you really don't need actually homework, right? You will actually, I would also feel that we should rather more encourage them. You do the learning in the school and you continue it and you integrate that learning in your time when you are at home. So it should not be homework. It should be home, not project again, like some task which you're doing in home to understand that particular concept. So it should not be the homework wala thing. So Ileana, I really feel that homework should not be, there should not be more homework. But what happened many times, many subjects requires you certain amount of practice, right? So that practice time should be there, which I feel if done well, we can do or integrate that practice time in the school itself. And if required, we can have some time at home for doing the practice. So less homework really works more actually. And with proper learning, with proper, what is missing badly versus Finland versus the other part is that Finland have a lot of focus on science of learning. How do we learn, right? We all teach them what to learn, syllabus. But if you remember, like in your education journey or there was no subject which teaches me how to learn, right? So that's what actually Finland does. They make you a better learner and an independent and lifelong learner. Once you become that, then homework is like not required at all. I mean, less homework will do, right? So until we fix that, just not giving homework without teaching them how to learn will be a disaster then. So it's not like we should not give homework. We should give, we should also see what are the other factors but that Finland did to bring to that level, right? So I think that is not possible immediately in India. We have a long way to go before reducing the homework, right? So that balance, if we can bring, I mean, I not give homework. We should give less homework, I mean.
Yeah, absolutely. Dinesh, like when you talk about Finland or Sweden, a lot of research goes into their research into curriculum and how they structure the whole syllabus. Right. In a way. But when we talk about, I will not talk about NCERT, but more about Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan school's book that we follow up. What do you see is a very big problem and we can target it? Do you have any solution where we can do it? Like if you have to give up some pointers to our education minister in terms of, how the book needs to be represented, can you talk about it a little bit?
Sure. So like, see, the book that we're following currently there is no contextualization in the books right now, right? So I don't find example, we don't have example which a student from a tea garden can relate, a student from a village in Assam can relate, right? There is no such local contextualization which is available. So what happened, whatever we're learning, we're unable to connect it to the real life, okay? Just for an example, if I ask you what is 2.5, that is 2.5 divided by 0.5 or half, okay? So this is a very good, interesting exercise where we ask, student to do 2.5 divided by half. If you could recall, the method is like you convert into improper fraction, then you flip it, the numerator becomes denominator, and you multiply and you cancel and you get the answer, right? But you ask a villager maybe from a tea garden, how many 2.5 liters you need, right? or how many half liters you need to make 2.5 liter. आधा लीटर का कितना आपको दूध का पैकेट चाहिएगा 2.5 लीटर बनाने के लिए, या आधा केजी आलू कितना चाहिएगा 2.5 के लिए, correct? They would be able to answer, right? Agree? So that is the power of contextualization. So my first suggestion would be, it would be very, very, very helpful if we can give the real life example of Assam if you are writing a book for Assam, right? If required, you can divide it into multiple parts, and if possible, why can't we have a book specifically designed for, like, for example, like tea gardens, right? It's an example of tea gardens, right? They have their own maths, you know, they do a lot of calculations on their own, which is not there in the traditional math, which is oral math, correct? For example, if I ask you, you go to a shop and I ask you, you have to pay me 57 rupees and you pay me 100 rupees, right? I pay 100 rupees to the shop owner. My bill is 57 rupees. How do you subtract? How do they subtract? They will say 57, 10, 67, 77, 87, 97, and 3. They will give you 43 like that, correct? They will not do 100 minus 47, 0, and, you know, the carry and all those things. They will not do, right? But nowhere in the textbook, this method is there, right? But if you see, this method is so logical and so appropriate. You ask, you can take the sample, you ask the same student from any school you take, 100 minus 47, most student, even in class 5, won't be able to tell that in the whole country. 100 minus 47. But you give them 47 hai, chutta karke de do mujhe, wo bata denge aapko. The problem, as I said, like once we contextualize, that brings a lot of you know, connect, right? I cannot understand pizza, I can understand puri. So मेरे book में अगर pizza रहेगा, जो कि मैंने US के book से लिया है, या foreign का कोई author से मैंने लिया, I will not be able to understand. तो मैं contextualize ही नहीं कर पाऊंगा. So my first suggestion is make it contextualize. Second suggestion, what I learned from Singapore books, if you look on Singapore books, they don't add too much of, they don't fill up the books. ज़्यादा भरते नहीं है उसको with like, you know, unnecessary images, correct? They keep it very clean and very neat so that बच्चे को वो एक make they do a part of decluttering themselves, right, in the textbook itself. So my second suggestion would be make books more visual, but don't use, I mean, because there is a printing cost also, use line designs, use simple images as much as possible, drawn from, you know, which can be printed in black and white and which student can relate more. So we were doing a project in Tripura where, you know, the participants were, can understand only Kokborok, okay? And we don't know Kokborok as a trainers, right? So what we used to do, we used to have a translator in the workshop. But what we realized that if I show this, they understand it's 2. If I say 2, they will not understand. But if I say this, any language I go, if I go and I show this, they will understand what I mean is 2. So making books more and more visual will really, really help when it comes to Assam context that you said. Third, and the most important thing is make it as much experiential as possible, right? So we don't have a option of doing mistakes in the school. अगर आप देखोगे बच्चों की किताबें, वो बहुत neat and clean का marks मिलता है, right? And you do your, when we work on any project, you can see any of my work, उसमें दुनिया भर का cross cut होंगे to till the time I refine my model, right? So if you see as a school student, I'm not allowed to commit mistakes, correct? So I will be allowed to commit mistake, probably not in copy, but I will be allowed to commit a mistake when I do more activities. Because if I'm doing an activity, no one gonna judge me with right and wrong. I get a lot of chance to play, right? So integrating that activity and making it more, doing more and more activities, may it be teaching maths, science, economics, science, Hindi, Assamese, English, whatever language, doing more and more hands-on activities will bring the fun back in the classroom, will make it more enjoyable for them. So I really feel these are the 3 things. And fourth, and I would say most important, our teachers need training, right? And when we say training, the training should not be imposed to them. The training should be, we should ask them what kind of training do they need. I need training in fraction, sir. Okay, we will arrange a training on fraction. I need training in how to teach reflection to my students. So we can, you know, it should be, there should be a mechanism where teachers ask what kind of training they want rather than we impose. Because then what happens, it becomes a demand-based training rather than having a fun fit program for all the teachers. But that requires a lot of leadership to really make it happen. But I really feel like these are the four things. If we can do, I think that would bring a lot of change. And the good part, we have really cracked most of them. What we really feel is that, like, if we can have a strong community around it, if we can to take your platform, Energy, if we can work towards it together, I'm sure we will be able to create such solutions available in multiple languages, and can reach to more people.
Wow, like that's amazing. Absolutely. I think I can speak for all the participants who are here. It's been a mind-blowing experience to listen the experience that you have gone, and the kind of innovativeness you have brought into the education system is absolutely mind-blowing. I think we have already crossed our time limit, and we could keep on talking later on. Maybe we'll have another session with you. But thank you, Dinesh, so much. Like, you have come over and enlightened us about your work and, what is actually going on. Maybe in future, Enajori, and we can do some kind of collaboration with you, and, we can reach to a larger number of children out there.
I'm really
So
looking.
thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Pooja. Thank you, Energy team. Thank you, Milind, for hosting me. I hope it was of some help to all the participants. So thank you so much, and looking forward for more collaboration and working together. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Dinesh. Great listening to you. We
Yeah.
hope to stay connected. Thank you once again.
Thank you.
You.
Thank you, Dinesh.
Yeah, so we will be winding up the meeting right now. Thank you, everyone.